Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into an incredible story hidden right in the woods of Glasgow's Southside. It's this remarkable historical journey weaving together unbelievable sporting triumph, devastating betrayal, and a really determined community-led rebirth. Yep, we're talking about the fascinating story of Third Lanark Athletic Club. Okay, let's dive into this. How did a founding giant of Scottish football simply vanish into the trees? I want you to just imagine for a second an overgrown, moss-covered amphitheater tucked away in a modern public park. A place that literally used to roar with the energy of up to 45,000 screaming fans, now reduced to quiet, terraced steps just echoing in the breeze. To really give you a sense of what this space feels like today, there's this great observation from actor and club activist Simon Weir, which was featured in a documentary by Daniel Gray. He notes that while today you might just see a few discarded cans, he says, "I can still feel that atmosphere and scratch beneath the moss, it's still there, definitely." That paints such a vivid, sensory picture, doesn't it? Cathkin Park serves as this haunting physical reminder of a completely lost sporting institution.
Part 1. The Ghost of Cathkin Park. To understand these ruins, we really have to trace the history of the ground itself.
Part 2. Rise of the Redcoats.
The story of the club actually kicks off in 1872. Originally a military drill field, it was here that soldiers of the Third Lanarkshire Rifle Volunteers, a regiment initially set up amid fears of a French invasion, formed a team. Inspired by the very first international football match between Scotland and England, these volunteers just decided to take to the pitch themselves. And let's see how this builds, because they went from an amateur volunteer regiment to a fully professional powerhouse with absolute lightning speed. By 1889, they had already won their first Scottish Cup by defeating Celtic. And then, jumping to 1904, they were crowned the Division I League champions. They were officially biting at the heels of Glasgow giants like Celtic and Rangers.
Along the way, they picked up what has to be one of the greatest nicknames in sports, the High High. This charming bit of lore was born in the 1890s, when a defender kicked the ball so unbelievably high out of the ground that the crowd naturally started screaming, "High, high, high." It stuck, becoming an eternal battle cry that was deeply embedded right into the working-class identity of local areas like Govanhill and the Gorbals.
And they weren't just a flash in the pan. They had a truly consistent, competitive edge across multiple decades. They didn't just have one lucky season. Whether it was dominating the First Division in 1904 or capturing Second Division titles in the 1930s, Third Lanark was an incredibly resilient force. In fact, as late as 1961, they scored 100 goals and finished third in the top flight, qualifying for European competition. They were, without a doubt, a massive presence in Scottish football.
Part 3. Murder by Mismanagement. So, despite a century of success, the club collapsed practically overnight during the 1960s, and this brilliantly illustrates the devastating irony of the situation. Think about the summer of 1967, arguably the greatest year in Scottish football history. You've got Celtic winning the European Cup in Lisbon, Rangers reaching the European Cup Winners' Cup final, and Scotland famously beating world champions England at Wembley. Yet, right at that same moment, just miles away, Third Lanark played its final game and went completely bankrupt. The historical consensus points to a scandalous tenure under their highly controversial chairman, Bill Hiddleston. The details read like an investigative mystery. He reportedly failed to pay players' wages, kits were left completely unwashed, and equipment just remained broken. It's widely reported that his real priority was property development, with a suspected secret aim to run the club straight into the ground so he could sell the Cathkin Park stadium land for lucrative housing projects.
Now, what's really interesting about this era is how those financial issues translated into a harsh, humiliating reality for the players right on the pitch. Former player John Kennard recalled it vividly. He said, "When it came to halftime, there was a big white mark on my head. That was a sign we couldn't even afford a decent ball." That is just a heartbreaking detail. Imagine a professional, top-tier team literally unable to even afford a proper football. And so, the inevitable happened. Their final match was this quiet, eerie 3-3 draw against Queen of the South in April 1967. By the time summer rolled around, the club was officially bankrupt, liquidated, and even subjected to a Board of Trade investigation. The stands emptied out for good, and the forest slowly began to reclaim the terraces.
Part 4. Resurrection of the High High.
But history, especially football history, rarely accepts a quiet death. The story doesn't end in the dirt. Grassroots community members absolutely refused to let this historic name die. So, in 2008, a major milestone happened. A dedicated group of fans officially reformed Third Lanark as an amateur side. Operating out of the local Greater Glasgow Leagues, they started fielding senior and youth teams, directly preserving the club's heritage and bringing those famous red and white kits back to the community.
And they aren't stopping there either. There's currently an ambitious £5 million community redevelopment plan being championed by figures like Pat McGuady. The ultimate goal? To revitalize the physical ruins of Cathkin Park into a thriving, multi-use local sports facility, complete with a brand new stand, serving the diverse modern population of Gavon Hill and the Southside.
This massive push for preservation gained incredible validation in September 2025. The surviving terracing of Cathkin Park was officially granted Scheduled Monument status by Historic Environment Scotland. This means it is now legally protected as a rare surviving example of a late 19th century stadium that hasn't undergone major modernization. It's officially recognized as a vital piece of world footballing heritage, which is just huge.
So the crucial point is this: look at what a community truly loses when a football club dies. And, more importantly, look at the immense effort it takes to bring those ghosts back to life. Third Lanark isn't just a story about a mismanaged business. It's about a working-class community that lost their Saturday afternoon institution, their identity, and their gathering place. But through sheer willpower, they are clawing it back from the moss and the trees. It really makes you wonder, what hidden histories are buried right in your own local parks?